They force people to enroll their children in schools. Satanic Act Law 1642 to 1647, restrict parent access to the going-ons in the school, after-school Satan program, then describe our children as bad. No one can see this. Those children vanished in Hawaii and during the Trump administration when the policies separated the children from their parents. Why? It's unnerving and uncomfortable to talk about, but student-on-student sexual assault and harassment happens with alarming frequency in school bathrooms, on school playgrounds, and in the backs of school buses. It happens at every level of education from pre-K to college. According to recently released data from the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, there were 14,938 incidents of sexual violence in K-12 schools in 2017-2018 compared with 9,649 in 2015-2016, representing a 55% increase. These include incidents of rape or attempted rape and sexual assault. Why the number of incidents jumped that much hasn't been determined. Some experts attribute at least part of the spike to more awareness. The hashtag #MeToo movement became well known in late 2017, and more effective reporting methods. Still, as Shiwali Patel of the National Women's Law Center told the Washington Post, reports of sexual violence in school are probably still being undercounted. The problem will undoubtedly re-emerge as the country slowly recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic and more students return to school.
They create policies that destroy family structures. That's because we're under a democracy or a satanic government.
Here's a scary story. Democrat politicians in America kidnap children and use their blood in satanic rituals to remain eternally young in a quite vampire-adjacent way. It's definitely a fascinating idea, but we can also assume that Hillary Clinton probably doesn't worship Lucifer or eat kids. These unhinged claims came from the conspiracy theory QAnon, who were using the aesthetic of medieval devil worship to paint the Democrat Party as holy and supernaturally evil. But has Satanism ever actually been a real thing? Well, not really, no. In 1233, Pope Gregory IX was seemingly very concerned about devil worshipping rife throughout Germany. So he sent the delightful Christian Conrad von Marburg to torture and terrorize his way through Mainz and expose the heretics' crimes. What Conrad found was truly shocking. By threatening to burn these nasty Satanists at the stake, he received confessions of all sorts of nasty, devilish rituals that were later written up in Pope Gregory's decree, the Vox in Rama. According to the Vox in Rama, what would happen, right, is a giant toad would turn up along with a really pale dude who the ritualists would all kiss, and that kiss would make them immediately forget the Catholic faith. Then at some point begins a wild orgy, occasionally homosexual, and also involving a massive, horny black cat who demands to be smooched on the bottom. The Vox in Rama called for a full-scale crusade against Germany's satanic peasants, which was pretty handy since those same peasants were revolting over tax grievances and property rights and were well overdue some Catholic justice. If we apply a bit of skepticism to the contents of the Vox in Rama and the way this information was coerced out of terrified peasants, we can see this accusation of Satanism for what it really was, a political tool, and this pattern continues throughout history. In 1789, the Catholic Church's power was impaired by the French Revolution. Immediately after this, Catholic writers predictably accused the revolution of being masterminded by Satanists. In the 1970s, British agents in Northern Ireland went about literally hanging upside down crucifixes throughout the war zone to stoke satanic panic and make paramilitary groups look demonic. In 1984, an American mother accused her child's daycare center of paedophilic and satanic ritual abuse. Though she was revealed latterly to be a paranoid schizophrenic, that didn't stop the US media and Christian evangelists from propelling the conspiracy to hysterical heights. Confused children swept up in the panic accused daycare staff of everything from forced cannibalism to the ritualistic slaughter of giraffes. Although evidence for this was elusive, 12,000 unsubstantiated accusations were flying about, and arrests were made all over the country, with some innocent daycare workers spending up to 21 years in prison. Writer Richard Beck would later ascribe political undertones to this satanic witch hunt, which especially targeted gay daycare workers, and it remains a striking example of what can happen when supernatural fear bleeds into a legal system. Throughout history, there have been isolated incidents where serial killers have carried out ritualistic attacks and even claimed to have worshipped Satan, but accusations of satanic cults are overwhelmingly proved to be false. And whilst there does exist an actual Church of Satan, this is essentially just a group of provocative atheists who like using a word that upsets people. Satanism then, since its very conception, has always been a conspiracy theory, a politically driven lie. We know that rich and powerful people have the capacity to commit heinous crimes, but accusations of organised Satanism and magic rituals are an unnecessary fantasy. If we want to investigate the evil of the real world right here, right now, maybe we should leave some stories in the past.
The bizarre history of satanic rituals. Hysterical fear of satanic rituals is arguably the ultimate human conspiracy theory, and it has truly weird origins. It's easy to think that Canon's conspiracy theory about child eating and Satan worshipping elites is something new. But panic about satanic rituals has a long and strange history, stretching back almost a millennium. Expect toads, horny cats, and rumors of ritual giraffe slaughters, and you'll only be about halfway there.
Imagine a government that's false and faking who they really are, claiming to be of God, but yet serving Satan in the same breath. It's all about the identity and the non-identity, membership and non-membership, knowledge of and having no knowledge of. Everything is written in plain sight. Did American courts sell slaves?
Yes, American courts sold slaves at auction. Courthouse steps. Slave auctions were held on the steps of courthouses across the country, including in Missouri, to sell slaves when their owners died without a will or went bankrupt. Court-ordered sales. Courts supervised and ordered sales, which were often a good deal for Southern buyers. Other locations. Slave sales also took place on plantations and anywhere else a slave owner needed cash. Other details about slave auctions include: enslaved people were often kept in pens or jails before being sold. Thousands of sales took place each year in American cities and towns. Enslaved people were valued based on their age, skills, and breeding ability. Terms of sale often included 1/3 cash and the remainder at 12 months credit. In South Carolina, the majority of slave auctions were conducted by the courts. In Charleston, enslaved people who already lived in the area were often sold at open-air auctions in the capital town. In Los Angeles, native Californians were sold at auction from about 1850 to 1870.
They are still selling these people. Hallowed be thy name, Hollywood.
How Hollywood's first major blockbuster revived the KKK. The Birth of a Nation depicted life after the Civil War in a way that glorified Klansmen. The film and its cultural impact led one man to conclude that the time was right to bring back the Ku Klux Klan.
Slavery starts at the top, then it trickles down.